Thank you, Michelle. Delighted to be here this evening. We have two incredible entrepreneurs that are going to share their story with us this evening. And so I'd like to introduce them both, and then I'm going to ask them some questions. So first of all, JD Ambati, or Jagadish, we'll just call him JD tonight, is the founder and chief executive officer of Everest Labs AI. And he was an entrepreneurial executive with over 16 years experience in AI, product development, strategic sales, and strategy. JD is responsible for growing companies from infancy to maturity by generating multi-million dollars in revenue and delivering value to customers. Ambati built strategic revenue streams for various startups and public companies by developing global partnerships and with leading customers, agencies, and holding companies. Ambati received his master's degree in computer science, artificial intelligence track at Pace, New York City, and holds a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from Bangalore University. Our second panelist is Sandra Shpilberg, and she is an entrepreneur and author of the best-selling book, New Startup Mindset, 10 Mindset Shifts to Build the Company of Your Dreams. The book is based on her founder's journey, starting, building, and then exiting Seeker Health, a digital patient finding platform. Since starting the company in 2015, Shpilberg developed a breakthrough software product, filed a US patent, and built a team which serves 60 plus biopharmaceutical companies. Her first startup was acquired in 2018. She recently began her second company called Adnoxy, a strategic intelligence platform for the next generation of treatments. Sandra holds an MBA from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania and earned her BBA/MBA at Pace, New York City. She's a contributor to Hacker Noon and at Adriana Huffington's wellness platform called Thrive Global. So thank you both for being here. First, I want to say thank you to Pace for featuring these two very successful entrepreneurs, and also for highlighting that there are some West Coast alumni. And so we're thrilled to be part of the gang. Even though we sit on the other side of the country, we still have our allegiance to Pace. So thank you very much for inviting us to be here. So first, I think it would be really helpful if we started by both asking JD and Sandra to tell us a little bit about their respective companies and what inspired them to create their companies. So Sandra, maybe if you could start.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to. First of all, thank you to all of you for joining today. Thank you to Pace. I have such incredible memories from Pace. I started at Pace University a year and a half after I immigrated to New York, to Brooklyn, New York, from Uruguay in South America. And it was amazing. The professors, it sort of felt like home. I was really not feeling home at that time. And Pace was the first time that I felt like home. Professors like Dr. Zemberg and Audrey Block. I don't think these people are still there, but they were amazing. And they're sort of like part of my family. So thank you for that. On why I started the company Seeker Health. Seeker Health is a patient finding platform. The mission of our company was to find patients for clinical trials. Prior to starting my company, I had worked in biotechnology on the business side for about 15 years, different companies, very large companies like Johnson & Johnson and very small companies like Nora Therapeutics. All the companies had the same problem. They couldn't find the patients for their clinical trials. And instead of filling their clinical trials in 3 months or in 6 months, it would take them a year, 2 years, sometimes 3 years to fill these clinical trials. Until the clinical trial enrollment is complete, basically nothing gets done, because the clinical trial is what enables the data to be collected for that product, right? For that new treatment that the company is trying to bring to market to serve those patients. And so the problem was super clear. There weren't really good solutions. At the same time, I was seeing the rise of Facebook advertising, the rise of Google advertising, patients sharing a lot of information on Google and on Facebook groups. And then then I decided to begin to marry these two things together and say, well, we have the technology, we have advertising that is very, very precise that would allow us to find people who are already identifying themselves with these conditions or are caring for someone who has the condition. And we have companies that are looking for them. So basically we began Seeker Health, which was a platform to help the companies find the patients that they needed for those clinical trials.
That's a great story. And I think I love entrepreneurs that are solving problems that they actually encountered. Mm-hmm. Those are truly the successful entrepreneurs, because a lot of times there's like, they're, you know, maybe they don't have the grasp on exactly what they want to do, but you saw the gap, you filled the gap, you came up with the solution, and typically those tend to be the most successful exits. So congratulations on that. Yeah. JD, different, kind of came from a different angle. JD's trying to solve a problem that all of us are experiencing. So maybe JD, if you can tell us a little bit about your company, Everest Labs AI, and what inspired you to create it.
Definitely. Thank you everyone for having me here. You know, like just like Sandra, right? PACE has been a home away from home for me. And yeah, I had fond memories, you know, great school in New York City, in the shadows of World Trade Center, just, you know, amazing experience. So I can't thank enough for what the school did to my career, Okay, so what brought me to everestlabs.ai? What made me start? It's the fact that I felt that, you know, I have 2 engineering degrees. I'm not doing anything to help the planet or humanity, and I'm getting restless. Okay, so I used my master's degree in machine learning to advance the sector of advertising and marketing, and you know, all the recommendations you get when you do online shopping on Amazon or any other e-commerce site, wherever you're browsing for things, and it says you may also need this. I'm one of the guys behind it. So I wrote the software for it from what I learned at PACE. So anyhow, so, you know, while being in the ad tech for 17 plus years, you know, Bay Area homeowner, and then you're like, why do I have so many recyclables? Why do I have so much garbage? I have a small family. What's going on here? What are the economics of waste? You know, I'm a voracious reader. I just started reading all about the recycling ecosystem, the economics of waste, because I'm an outsider. I know nothing about it. And, you know, lo and behold, 2017, fall 2018, I was a free agent. I didn't need a job or anything. So I just knocked on the doors of the recycling companies in the Bay Area saying, I would like to listen to your problems and see if I can help you. So turns out recycling is a massive industry, extremely rich industry, cash rich, very labor dependent, even in developed countries. We all talk about recycling. We love recycling. We have a green thumb, but guess what? It's not the reality. Whatever you put in the recycling bin doesn't get recycled. 90% of that still ends up in landfill. And these companies lack technology, lack solutions, innovations. And when I showed up, they're like, hey, these are my 20 problems. What can you do for me? So, you know what? I set aside my 17 years of career in ad tech, mark tech, and said, you know what? I'm going to go do this. So we jumped in, and yeah, we are still building the company as we speak. 40 employees worldwide, venture funded. We raised about 9 million so far, and growing. So what we do is, in simple terms, we use AI software to bring operational efficiencies to the recycling plants so that we recover more materials that are going into the recycling stream and preventing them from ending up in landfill. So it's a software solution that actually empowers operators to take quick decisions to increase their top line revenue, increase recoverability, achieve government goals, you name it. Yeah, it's been a fun journey so far.
That's great. JD, what a noble venture that you're starting. I
I
mean,
don't know about that, but yes.
well, you got us from stop buying to stop. You got us to stop buying so much on the internet, and now you're trying to help us recycle what we bought. So,
Well, I never made that connection. Do I ever feel guilty about all that? No, no. Advertising is a phenomenal vehicle to deliver a good message to consumers to use products and services, right? But yeah, while ads make us buy things, at the end of the day, we are the power is in our hands to say yes or no. Anyhow, yeah.
no, that's great. And you talked about something. You had to go to venture. You're raising money for your startup, where Sandra had a different experience, and that's kind of why we got to the tale of two entrepreneurs. Maybe if we can just go back to Sandra for a sec and have her explain, kind of the financial part of it, how she was able to do that. And then I want to come back to you, JD, and talk about, venture and raising money. So Sandra, maybe you can walk us through, how that happened for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started the company, Seeker Health, the first solution that I thought would be useful to this problem was to help biopharmaceutical companies with compliant social media campaigns, right? So we would put a campaign on social media, on Facebook. Instead of seeing an ad for shoes, like you might see today, you would see an ad that said clinical trial for this rare disease that we were working for. And there would be a place to click, and it would click onto a website that was already owned by the biopharmaceutical company. So we began with that. We began with advertising, which in essence takes absolutely zero capital upfront. I can bill the company for the service as I am providing an advertising service to you. I didn't need to build any software. At that point, that software was provided by Facebook, by Google. We use Pinterest, we use Instagram. That's where the software was being provided. It was more us accessing their advertising platform, working our magic with targeting, working our magic with our ad design, and doing this as a service. So I started as a service. So I got paid money to do that. And it was good money, actually, right? So for most of these, I could sign up for a campaign that would last 9 months, sometimes a whole year. And so I could assure that the client was going to remain as long as things were looking like we were sending the right traffic into their website. But very quickly, about 4 months into this, I realized that that wasn't going to be enough. I couldn't just do ads. I had to do the entire platform. And the entire platform meant that I had to build software that basically began to accumulate the data that we were collecting on the patients, so that now they saw the ad on Facebook, they clicked, they went to our website, they signed up. We collected all that data. We stored it in something we call the Seeker portal, which is what we filed a patent for. And in that Seeker portal, now that portal acted basically as the aggregator and the central piece of the platform. It would allow the hospitals to come in and retrieve the patient. It would allow the biopharmaceutical company to monitor the status of the patient at any given time. And so in order to do that, I had to hire developers, software developers. I'm not a software developer. And interestingly, my son now is, but he was 13 then, so he wasn't yet doing that. And so I had to hire software developers. And that was really kind of like the point where, I said, well, I can, first I said, let me see how much this costs, because many times with venture raising, right, if you've seen the show Silicon Valley, you notice that they ask for 20 developers, but they only need 2. And so I said, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to ask for 20 developers when I need 2. And I ended up needing 2, and it cost $150,000. $150,000 was less than 25% of the revenue that was coming in at that time for my company. And so I said, well, with the revenue that's coming in, I'm going to pay these 2 guys $150,000 as contractors. They'll develop the Seeker portal. I own the intellectual property. I have a solid contract with them. And then I'll keep them on to help me. Software is a living, breathing thing. So you have to keep feeding it. You have to keep fixing it. You have to keep growing it. So I'll pay them a monthly fee to help us continue to grow it. So that's what I did. That was the point where I could have said, I'm going to go raise venture because I want to build this huge team in-house. But instead, I didn't do that. I hired outside contractors who worked for hire. And that worked for this company, right? That worked. Once we built the software that amazingly increase the scale of what we could do. So instead of having, maybe 10 customers at any given time, we could have 40, 60, 100. And so that really began to propel the company forward.
Right.
So I never ended up raising venture. I never did. Instead, and we'll get to this later, but instead I exited the company and sold the entire thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good story and a great success because you started at the beginning using tools that already existed, then generated revenue to continue to fund what you thought the continued need was. So that, that's great. You were, it's great to generate revenue. That's always like, yay. So you were able to keep building your product. And as you said, data is the oil of today's generation, right? So data is very important and you realize that and kept building. So congratulations again. JD, you had a different approach, maybe because yours was a little bit more labor intensive. Maybe you can talk about your journey and what it's like to be an entrepreneur and raising funds for your startup.
Yeah, sure. So, I think if you don't have to raise venture fund, money from venture capitalists, and you can still have a growing business, sustainable business, that's the beautiful route to go. There's no that's I hats off to Sandra and all other entrepreneurs who figure this out. What brought me to venture is multiple things. It's the one, there's only a certain distance I can take the company with my own capital, my own resources. And number two, I'm talking to garbage guys about technology. It's like, imagine that, right? For them, they think about how many tons that they processed that day and how many tons they shipped off to China or how much went to landfill. So when I'm building a piece of technology that I think or I believe that'll make their life easy, the sales cycles are longer. The product adoption is cycles are very longer. But you realize, wait, they are going to adopt, they are going to buy, but this is going to take you some time. So if I had all the time in the world and all the money in the world, I would not do it. Okay. Right. But like any typical Silicon Valley startup, right? You have to weigh your pros and cons. And we are using AI. AI is the shiny new object in Silicon Valley for the last few years. And we went and knocked on doors after, in 2018. It took us nearly an year to secure the first million, because even Silicon Valley, for all its talk about changing the world, saving the planet and all the nonsense, I'll be honest with you, nobody cares about 90% of the things. Nobody just 90% of this, 98% of the stuff we see in the Valley about innovations and all that is still investing in what they know.
Right.
It's still investing in what they know.
Right. And it's also getting 10x return pretty quickly. So, they don't want to have that long sales cycle because clearly, they're in the business of making money and making sure that their funds are profitable.
Oh, so, exactly.
One quick comment on venture. I think JD is making a great point that the more research and development you have to do for your product, or the more that you have to create a network effect before you can take your product out and start charging for it, then the more likely you are to need to raise venture, because that's just going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of money, and there aren't a lot of people who can do that. And then the opposing side is the more that you can offer something that maybe has like a little bit of a service component in the beginning. It's not going to be totally scalable long term, but it's a way to get you started that then can maybe be replaced by a machine. Then the more likely you are to be able to create something revenue generating from the start that might, need less venture. I had a chance to still get venture later on. So there's always a possibility to get venture later on if you want to go that route.
Especially when you have customers and you have traction, everybody's willing to jump in the game then. Really, so JD, do you have robotics or anything like that you're doing at Everest AI, or is it simply a software and AI solution?
We do have robotics as well. So our software, the AI software sees what is happening on the conveyor lines in the recycling plants. And we inform the customer of, okay, this is the data we have on how much value of materials is going to the landfill. Either they can employ people to recover them, or they can use our robotic solutions. So we have robots actually down the street from your office, Connie, in Sunnyvale, in their plant, the city of Sunnyvale plant, 3 robots. We have about 6 going live in Q2 and just multiplying thereafter. So we have robotics. We have robotics as a sorting, the robots do the sorting of recyclables from the trash that is going to the landfill, or robots performing quality control on recyclables that are about to be built up and sold to manufacturers. So these are the 2 robotics products.
Yeah. So, I mean, that also requires capital investment as well.
Yeah, definitely. Robots are not that expensive, but still they're 25 to 40K if you buy from the manufacturer. Then you have to build the robot cell. Then you have to adapt the robot to the customer location, write software layer on top of it. Anytime you mix hardware and software, you just amplified your chances of failure. There are more dead hardware companies and software companies than dead software alone companies. So yeah.
But we talked a little bit about finance and how both of you had very different journeys. But let me ask you something about sort of your mental acuity and what makes you want to be an entrepreneur. Usually, maybe Sandra, I'd like to ask you, in your opinion, what are characteristics that are necessary to become an entrepreneur?
I'm glad you asked. I wrote a whole book about that. So you can read my book for sure. But I think that some of the characteristics of an entrepreneur is that generally you want to solve a problem, right? Like that has to be the thing that gets you up in the morning and sort of like gets you going and thinking, because at the end of the day, successful businesses are solving a problem. Maybe it doesn't look to you like it's a problem, but it is actually a problem that they're solving. Even the most basic products like Coca-Cola, right, is solving a problem. You want to have something refreshing and kind of sweet and sort of like a different taste. Like that is the problem they're solving. So the first thing is finding a problem and then being sort of like passionate about solving it. But passion is not going to get you all the way. I think the most important quality in an entrepreneur is really resilience, is the ability to keep going after running into obstacles. With any entrepreneurial pursuit, there will be obstacles, there'll be closed doors, there'll be hurdles, there'll be detours. And the most important thing is to sort of like figure out what they mean, figure out what they're trying to tell you, figure out what you need to do differently, what you need to learn, who you need to contact, and then get through it. And continue on your mission to solve the problem. So I think resilience is the most important thing. And resilience, I think, is a muscle that we build. I had a lot of experience with resilience that I credit to my immigration experience. My parents decided to come to the United States. So I was kind of coming here kicking and screaming, but I had to figure it out. I had to figure out how to live here. And that was a very good experience in making me exercise that muscle of resilience. So, when you think something bad is happening, well, like Is it really bad, or is it just here an opportunity to fix something, to do it differently, to figure out another way, and to continue going?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very important quality. You know, you're probably faced with a lot more no's than yeses as you're going along your journey. So you have to be able to, you know, like you said, fight through those or go around them, whatever it is, to get to where you want to be. JD, with that comment about resiliency, can you speak to a specific challenge that you faced as an entrepreneur and maybe how you overcame it?
Yeah, you know, I'm like, which one? Which challenge? Where do I start? You know, I'll tell you what. Staying on the subject of resilience, right? 2018 was the most horrible year of my life. My year one journey as a CEO, founder CEO, and the reason I say that is that is the year the resolve, the resilience muscle that all took shape, right? There are so many times you would you would just stand at the brink of the edge of the cliff and think, okay, let's wrap this up. You know, you fought it, you're enough, you know, it's not worth it, right? But then you tell yourself, you know what? No, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure this out. So to answer your question, right, Connie, you know, when I realized I need to raise venture round, angel or seed funding for the to finish the prototypes, or we finish the prototypes, I need to get to production. It was hard. It was hard to explain to the Valley investors that solving problems for the waste sector is a worthwhile journey that would deliver excellent returns. Okay. They just didn't get it. They're like, what are you talking about? Waste management, garbage, recycling? Recycling is a problem. Oh, yeah, there is something going on in China. I mean, you have no idea the amount of mockery and between the lines chuckles from the VCs to investors to, they're like, why are you wasting your career trying to build something for the waste sector? But you know what? Nobody's doing it.
Right.
Nobody is doing it. Nobody in Silicon Valley, even today, even see, this is what drives me nuts is, you know, even fast forward 3 years, there's one more company we heard about it just trying to solve problems for the waste sector since we started, right? Because it's out of sight, out of mind. We can't be bothered, but we all talk about greenhouse gases, climate change, plastics in the ocean, but nobody is moving a pencil to solve it. Okay, Silicon Valley engineers. Okay, and when I started banging on the doors to raise money, it was brutal. I'll be honest with you, I was 1 month away at most to wrap it up and say, you know what, I'm going to go back to my day getting a job. Because by that point, it was almost 15 months. I had no job building this company, only with my wife's salary and our savings. You know, just because dad is an entrepreneur, you suddenly don't want to radically change your living situation or lifestyle. You still have a mortgage to pay. You still have your private schools to pay for, your cars and all that stuff you accumulated over life. And yeah, you know, so how I overcame, you know, just not taking a no. Not taking a no, crying into your pillow, and you know, punching your steering wheel a couple of times after every VC meeting, and not taking a no, and networking the hell out of it, and fight for it. And somebody will see it, and then they'll write you the first check. There is no. I have to tell you, there is no secret sauce to it. I can't tell you go to Stanford, my odds would have gone up. If I went to Wharton, my odds would have gone up. No, I'll tell you what, even if you had any fancier degrees you want, you can claim, you go talk to VCs in 2018 about AI and garbage, they'll be like, they'll laugh you out of the office. You know, they'll be great in the meeting. They'll be polite, nice people, but you're the butt of jokes after you left and such. Okay. So
You
yeah.
really got some exercise on that resilience muscle then, huh?
Yep, it's getting bigger and bigger every day. Year 3.
Yeah.
A
I
question.
think one thing that's interesting on the no's is that I got a lot of no's too, because instead of pitching to venture capital, I was pitching to customers to buy our product. And I think with the no, what was helpful to me was to understand why no, right? Like what is the no? Is the no about our system? Is the no about our pricing? Is the no about compliance? Is the no about privacy? What is the no about? Because then I can try to see if I can fix it. And that is actually how we continue to develop our product. The people that said no to us were extremely helpful, because then I can say, oh, okay, you're saying no to us because you need us to build this opt-in here for the patient to blah, blah, blah. Well, no problem. We can do that. We can build that opt-in for you. And so you know what I'm saying? Like the no's are really useful information. Sometimes it's a final no and that's it. Sometimes the no means build something else and it's a yes. And sometimes the no is just really good information for us to have as a company.
I think that's a great that's a great way of looking at it. It's teaching moment, right? Because like you're saying, you're showing them product A, but it had to iterate somewhere. So it could be appealing to, you know, to go on to the fundraise or to the next step. And you know, JD, I was just reading an article today about Founders Fund, which is like, you know, Peter Thiel and the PayPal mafia, who are still looking for, you know, they say, you know, Silicon Valley, we're supposed to be here and we're supposed to be like really changing the planet, right? We're supposed to be coming up with these ideas. I mean, when you think about it, we still, you know, we're still depending on government, I believe, to get us to Mars, right? And, you know, we're still not doing that, just Silicon Valley alone, except Elon Musk, right? So anyway, you know, keep pushing through and, you know, we're going to have a meeting, you and I, we're going to come up with some, hopefully, additional funds for you. But in that, Sandra, one thing I'd like to ask both of you, and that's like, if you had one piece of advice to give a future entrepreneur, what would it be? And Sandra, let's start with you.
Yeah, my advice is to start, to not wait for anything else to happen. Oftentimes when I talk to people who want to start a company, they say, oh, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait another year because I'll learn more. I'm going to wait, you know, 5 more years. I'm going to go get an MBA. I'm going to go, you know, there's always something else that they're going to do before they start the company. And the truth of the matter is that none of that is going to matter, because what's going to matter is starting the company. And once you start the company and start taking those first few steps, then the next few steps appear. But the steps 5 through 10 cannot appear until you've taken steps 1 through 5. And so you're better off starting today, you know, and beginning to figure out where are going to be the no's? What does the market need? What do you need to do to fix this problem? And so my advice is always don't wait. It's a pandemic, doesn't matter. This is a perfect time to start, because anything that you wait for isn't really going to help you. What's going to help you is to start.
That's interesting. So so to that point, do you think you have to have it all figured out before you start?
No, not really. I mean, I think what really helps is to know what's the problem that you're solving. And sometimes you see a part of the problem, you'll see like the tip of the iceberg and you don't see the whole problem yet, but it's good to see something that you're trying to do. And then how are you going to solve that problem, right? And why is it you? Are you really a good fit for this problem? Because I think the founder problem fit is really important. For example, I don't think I would have been excited about building Uber, right? And getting apps into people who are driving people around. It just doesn't do anything for me. But putting patients in a clinical trial chair, that was exciting to me, right? Because I've seen what happens when those patients get their treatments that they've been waiting for. So that's, I mean, that's what I would say.
Yeah. So you're saying, you know, make sure you're passionate about what you're doing. Because you're going to have to go through a lot of no's. So you're going to have that resiliency. Also, I think what you're saying is you don't have to have it all figured out. And
No.
probably lastly is just jump in and do it.
Yeah, just jump in and do it. Just jump in and begin. That's actually the first chapter in my book is beginner's mindset. It's sort of this concept that actually there are some benefits to not having done this before. When I started Seeker Health, of course, I brought a lot of things to that equation. I had worked in biopharmaceuticals. I understood the problem. I had some connections, but then there was also a lot of things I hadn't done before. I never started a company before. I never developed software. I never did actually sales, like customer sales, like I ended up doing for more than 50% of my time. I never did that before. And that was okay. So you're not going to be able to have all of the pieces. You'll never get really all the pieces that you need for your specific business. The only way to get them is to actually jump in with what you have today, and then begin to get the other pieces, either by yourself, by hiring people, by hiring companies that help you with that. And that's how you get through to the other side.
Yeah, no, I mean, great advice. JD, what piece of advice would you give a potential new or future entrepreneur?
I think Sandra covered it really well. That just it's a good summary. She puts it in a very eloquent words, and Sandra, well done. Same thing, right? As an entrepreneur who's going through the journey, and what I can tell you is you have to start. You have to start. You have to tell your story to everybody. Listen to everybody's opinion. Listen, but make up your own mind. Okay, believe in yourself. You have to make up your own mind. It's not that that person has X number of years of experience over me, successful. They got these degrees. Oh, who am I? Oh my God, they must be right. I'm the idiot here. None of that. Listen, but go back to believing in why you started the journey, why you want to start the company, what problem you're solving for, and frame your thought process. You have to be delusional, confident, and every single day you have to tell yourself, I'm not giving up. So it's really a mental battle. If you mentally prepare yourself to say, you know what, I'm going to figure this out, you'll figure it out. But you won't know everything day one, not at all. Even if you go to Lubin School of Business or Wharton or Harvard, it doesn't matter. You will still not know so many things. Oh my God, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling that so many things don't get really told in the business school that actually happen in real life. It's mind-boggling, so I always tell my employees, I was in many startups where I was employee number 4. Oddly enough, 4. I don't know why. And I would always tell them, like, look, I got multiple MBAs by working in startups where I know how to build a company or how not to build a company. And you can't learn from that from books, right? So, I think the entrepreneur should know why they're building the company, what for, what are they solving for, what is driving them, what is the motivation. Is the motivation to be successful personally, professionally? Is the motivation to help the humanity? Is the motivation to improve something, to advance something, right? Like Sandra said, right? Putting patients in the clinical trial is a ray of hope she's offering. That drives her every single morning. What drives me every morning is not the plastic in the ocean. What drives me every day in the morning is these plastics, aluminum, the recovered well, reused, repurposed, and I'm not burning fossil fuels to make brand new plastics. Even if I can advance the earth or the humanity by 0.00001%,
right?
It's a life well lived, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, what a great mantra. You have to get up in the morning and remind yourself what your passion is, why you're doing this, because it is not an easy journey. We do have a couple of questions from our participants, and Veena has asked, and maybe Sandra, you can answer this one. How do you push through the no?
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Yeah.
very,
And I can give
Great
also,
question, Dina. Yeah,
Okay.
did you wanna
sorry,
ask
if I
a
can
question?
interrupt really quick, to give more coverage to that. Like my background has been always like investment banking, management consulting, but then switched over to roles within companies where I help them find funding. So like to hear your story, JD, and even yours, Sandra, to a certain extent, I think before COVID, like it was very easy to raise funds for companies to a certain degree, right? But I think even right now, like it's very difficult because people are so hesitant with the time. And especially like within what space I'm in, which is like the wellness, within the wellness space. And I understand, JD, what you're saying is like just start and get that ball rolling. And so this is like my whole part of being part of the company I'm with now is to get them funding. And it's very difficult because it's such a different time, even from, I would say, a year ago. And like, I guess for myself is like, how do you get over that no, even if it was something 3 years ago of how you got over like something that was really hard to get over? How do you do that and persevere?
That's a great question, Vina.
I was just asking, when you're saying right now, you're talking about because of the pandemic, you know, that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great question, Vina, and I'm glad that you clarified, because initially when you type the question, how do you push through the no? What came to my mind is you don't push through a no, like you hear, you listen to what they have to say. So if a customer tells me, no, this is not for us, my next step is to understand, well, why, right? Like, what do you need? But what would make it something that you would buy it? Is it about the price? Is it about how long it takes us to get it implemented? Is it right? So the no is actually a good opportunity to now get information from your party. So initially I thought that's where you were going, but I think where you're actually going was somewhere different, which is you got all these no's. How do you recover to keep going? The no's, in my opinion, come in two flavors. And I have a whole chapter in my book about this because I thought very deep and hard about this. The no's come in the flavor of a closed door, and they come in the flavor of an obstacle, and they're very different. So some no's are an obstacle, and mainly what this is you just have to figure out a way to overcome the hurdle, but there is road after the hurdle. You can see that there's road after the hurdle and you can get through it. And those are the ones that you should continue to push through, because you're like, there is road. There's either other companies that are getting funding, or there's other, founders that are doing it. There's something happening that I know there's road on the other side. We're just not the ones getting through right now, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is a closed door, which is the door is closed. It's either from a regulatory perspective, an economic perspective, an environmental perspective. For some reason, this door right now is closed. It's not going to be closed forever, maybe, but it's closed right now. And if you keep pushing against that closed door, the only thing you're going to do is weaken yourself. So I think the most important thing to say is in this particular perspective, what is this? Is this an obstacle? Are other people winning? Are other things happening that you should be winning here, but you're not? In that case, keep going, figure it out. Why are you getting no's? But if it's not, then maybe this is just begging you to completely redirect your efforts. A closed door is, I have to go a different way now. I have to turn left and then turn right and then come back around. And so maybe that's it as well. Maybe it's not about funding. Maybe you should be searching for funding in some other source, or making a product that initially has some revenue, or getting a grant from someone. Maybe there's some other way to do it. Does that make sense, Dina? Okay.
Yeah, great answer. Really good to, I like how it's like, it could be the product or your service, or it could be, that you're just not getting through. And for whatever reason, you need to make sure that you know the difference. So good point.
Yeah, I think the only one thing I would add is, from a venture perspective, from a VC perspective, usually the no's are, some are superfluous because they just don't get it, or they could care less, right? Some are thoughtful, meaningful, where they think through and they come back to you with an answer where they write their opinion about it. And, it falls upon us, the entrepreneur, to figure out why they are saying what they are saying, separating the no's from substance to garbage. And then figure out like, okay, because I learned a lot about the no's. I learned more from the no's I got than the S's I got, because the no's enabled me to figure out what I need to change. I need to change in my approach, what data points I should be prepared for, explain better, or what product feature I need to fix, or am I even solving the right problem? Right. So yeah, you have to bucket the no's into various categories and then learn from them and keep on course correcting.
Yeah. Thank you, JD, for adding that, because I feel like I need to rewrite that chapter, because I think there's a third category of no, which are garbage no's. And I think it's interesting that I didn't put it in my first startup, because I think the first time you go through it, I was a little bit in a position of disadvantage. And so when somebody else was telling me no, I always generally thought that their no had more weight than my yes, or my reason for doing it, that they knew more than I did. But now that I'm kind of going through this one more time, there is this other category of no's that are just pure garbage. There are people who, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know you. They don't know anything. And they're actually garbage. And the thing you do with that no, Vina, is you just throw it out the window and you just show up the next day and you're like, I'm going to show that guy that is not right.
You also have to keep in mind, like venture, they're not doing a lot of deals every year. They're seeing, 50, 60 deals a week. And, at the end of the year, they'll probably invest in 10. So, I mean, it's a very, very hard place to break through. So, you shouldn't be discouraged by the no's, and also just find different ways. If it's seed funding, it's angel funding, it's people in your industry that understand the problem, go to them. You can probably get a network right there.
Yeah.
So, Wendy, would you like to ask Sandra and JD your question? You can unmute yourself, or I can ask for you.
Hi. So I'm just curious, do the funders ever try to influence change with your company goals? Like, they put money into you, they're investing in you, but somehow they have suggestions or ideas that they might think it may be better than what you had intended to. Does that happen? How do you deal with it? Just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, no, for me, at least so far, they haven't changed the company goals. They know the mission of the company, they know the goal of the company, but they would offer opinions on various things, right? They would offer opinions on things. So think about it this way, think about slowing down hiring here, invest there, focus on engineering, focus on sales. You get this feedback, thoughtful feedback, and as a CEO, it's your call to take the decision and what to do with it. If you believe in what you're doing, you're absolutely certain you got it, you know what to do, you're going to stay the course. You're going to say, thank you very much for the feedback, I appreciate it, I'm going to stay the course, and let's circle back and see what happens to this. Okay. So sometimes they will offer thoughtful opinions, and you're like, you know what, that's a good point, I never thought about it, let me think about it more. Because the investors, right, when they come in and they fund you, their job is not to wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to change this company inside out, tell the CEO to flip the switch and do that. It happens rarely that that's the case overnight, maybe over a course of many, many years and decade-long years and such. It's usually guiding on how to course correcting on the goals, adjusting along those lines versus straight up changing the goal of the company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good point, JD. I mean, of course, when you do accept venture money, they are your partners now, and you don't make a lot of, they are part of the process. So that is one of, it brings its own set of problems, or opportunities, however you want to look at it. So you are, you do have to pay a little bit more attention to what they want, but nonetheless, hopefully they're not trying to get you 100% off course or do a 180.
Right.
Tiga, would you like to, JD, this probably is for you. Would you like to ask JD the question, Tiga?
Yeah, sure. So, JD, I'm really curious as to how you approach the recycling companies, asking them about the problems they're facing at that time. Like, how did you make that first meeting? How do you, how do you make that move? What was the things? What do you have in your arsenal? What did you take to that meeting?
Yeah, sure. Definitely. I picked it. I searched for the companies around where I live. I know all the company names, all the public companies I knew. I found their plant addresses, and I literally cold called myself. Cold call into the plants. I said, I want to come in, take a tour, understand your problems. My background is in AI. I know a little bit about robotics, but I would like to talk to you. As a guy who hasn't ever worked in waste management previously, before I started this company, all I did was just cold call, not even networking, because my network has no idea about waste management. It's literally, and I also did one other thing I did was I would go down to the garbage guy every Thursday whenever the truck comes, and I hang around the garage to chat with them, to what happens in their plant, what happens to my recyclables, where are they taking, what are they doing? And you know what? They are the greatest people. They tell you everything. Yeah, and that's how I started learning. And then I asked, hey, do you know anybody I need to go talk to if I want to come and see the plant? What do I do? Sometimes they could give me some names. Sometimes they would say, call the main number. Yeah, I'm sorry, there's no rocket science to this. Just cold call myself into meetings. And Tiga, I always tell my investors this. It was easy for me to get a meeting with the Ford CMO and sell them enterprise software for ad tech that helps them sell more cars, have a buy software license for a couple $1 million a year. It was easier for me to do that, and it was very quick, like less than 3 months, 3 to 6 months max, than it was for me, for these waste management companies to allow me to tour their plants with them. They protect them like Fort Knox's, and I kid you not, if you're not part of a school group, the odds of you getting a tour are zero.
Exactly. So that's exactly my point. So I've been sitting on an idea that's about almost similar lines, renewable energy and all of that. And I had this company in mind somewhere up Northern California. And I've been thinking, how do I even go start to approach them? Like, how do I take a tour of their plant? How do I see things? And the idea that came to my mind was organize a school excursion. But the logistics around taking kids to some location, they didn't just sit well with me. It's a whole mess there. So I was curious as to how you did it.
Yeah. Look, I didn't take school kids, or didn't say I'm from government. I just told them I'm a Silicon Valley engineer, not looking for a job, don't have anything to sell. I just want to listen to your problems. See, look, if you call these companies, find the names, leave messages, continuously follow up on messages, and tell them and say, look, I just want to listen to your problems. I may or may not have a solution. I appreciate your time. People will give you the time. I was in sales before. I did enterprise sales. Same thing in sales, selling selling and what I was doing to get these meetings are exactly the same. He's still a customer. You don't give up. You tell them what you want, you tell them what you're trying to do, and be frank about it. And, they would listen to you.
Maybe even Tika, bringing, I think JD's point there, which might really resonate with someone, is, internally is like, hey, let me hear your problems because I'm trying to come up with a solution. And, and I don't know, you're just going to ask them for information. And typically people love to talk about what they do. I mean, it's a funny thing. We don't think that people do, but, once you start really peeling the onion back, they do want to discuss what they're doing. And especially if you're coming up with, like you said, a potential solution, you're not selling them anything. You really want to work with them to, solve a problem. So, try that approach.
Thanks, JD.
I know we're kind of getting to time here. So first of all, I want to thank Sandra and JD for sharing their journey. It's amazing what you guys have done. And, I tip my hat to you. This is not easy. So, in my experience, I've been working at Plug and Play for the last 15 years, and I've met thousands of entrepreneurs. And really, they are a special brand of people. They're the risk takers. You guys are the dreamers, the risk takers, and the problem solvers. And, typically you don't work, don't like to work for anybody because you have your own ideas about things, and that's great. And we need people like you. So, anything that we can do as a community, as a society, as PACE alum, we'd love to be part of your journey. Really, you are making the planet, the community, healthcare, waste management, all things that affect us better. So, we encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, and thank you very much for doing it. So, again, thank you for being part of us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you, Connie. Thank you, Michelle. Great information, JD, and great to be with all of you.
Same, Sandra. And we should meet, Sandra. We both are in Bay Area.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
And we're hiring if your son is looking for a job.
Sounds good. Thank you.
It's all about the network at the end of the day.
Hey, it's all about networking. It's all about talking to people, telling your story, and listening to them. Okay, they may laugh at you. They may say, "Great job, bravo." They'll mock at you. Anything. It doesn't matter. But if you don't tell them what you're trying to do, you will just lose your battle. Emotionally, you'll be drained because you're not getting the feedback you need to succeed. For me, I got feedback from everybody from all walks of life. I told everybody about the company. People are, JD, why are you talking to so many people? I'm like, because I want to know what I'm missing. And the odds of somebody taking my idea and stealing it and trying to build another company are zero. Because, in my opinion, ideas are cheap. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Everybody and their mother has an idea. But what you do with an idea, I kid you not, I've been in the Valley for 20 years. What you do with the idea is what matters.
How you execute is...
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That question usually comes up in these forums, like, how do you protect your idea so that nobody steals it? And you know how you protect your idea so that nobody steals it? You work on it. Because if you work on it, you're going to be so much more ahead than whoever else has the idea and hasn't done any work on it.
Right. I mean, we have in our accelerator, we have people that are working on the same ideas sitting next to each other, and people are like, oh, we need NDAs. And we're like, yeah, that doesn't really exist. I mean, you just, if you have a good idea, you will rise to top. You're not the only predictive analytics company that we've seen. There's, hundreds of them. Just be the best at what you do, and you will be a success.
Yeah. Hello. Sorry to just, I know we're past the time, but this is such a great conversation. I think we should do this more. And I was just going to add to what, Sandra and JD have said so far. all of that is legit. And sometimes as a founder, like you just need to get through that day and just get through to the next day, you know, and if you sleep over it and you cry over your pillow, like JD said, you know, things usually are better in the morning. And speaking of communities, Connie, I was also gonna connect with you offline. I want to learn more about what Plug and Play does because we're right here in the Valley as well. And we use like AI and spectroscopy to build like a software platform for rapid food analysis, for sustainability and transparency on the food supply chain. And hello, Bruce. I haven't seen you since 2014. What? Yeah.
See, hello to the West Coast.
Hi.
Thank you all so much for joining us and for participating. This has been great. I'm hopeful that we can continue to connect this way with the West Coast even going forward. If you have suggestions about other types of things you'd like to do or discussions or other types of events, please feel free to let me know. I'll be sending out a thank you about this event with the recording of the event also. So I'm always, happy to hear any suggestions our alumni have. And this was really a great conversation. Thank you so much, Connie and Sandra and JD. I don't know much about entrepreneurship, and I really enjoyed listening to all of this and hearing about it. It is really inspiring. And it clearly is like a bug that you guys have and you have to fulfill. It's a need you have to fulfill. So congratulations on all of your successes. And thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you'll come back and join us again for other events.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank